Deep Sea Energetics, Biology 1510, Group A26. Introduction. Deep oceans encompass 71% of the Earth's surface. This graph illustrates in red the NPP per unit area, the area covered, and total NPP of open oceans. As we talked about in class, the average net primary productivity, NPP per unit area, of open oceans is one of the lowest, as highlighted in red. Yet they cover so much of the Earth's surface area that the total net primary productivity of open oceans is the highest among all ecosystems. Energy is essential for the diversity and complexity of life. However, with low temperatures, barely any light, and little availability of particulate carbon, the deep oceans are energy-deprived systems. The article Deep Sea Floor Energetics by McLean uses the metabolic theory of ecology to examine the relative roles of carbon flux and temperature in influencing metabolic rate, growth rate, lifespan, body size, abundance, biomass, and diversity for life on the deep sea floor across the multiple levels of biological organizations. That is, on the individual level as well as the community level. The article also explores the extent to which deep sea energetics follows common patterns predicted by MTE and the effects that climate change might have on oceanic ecosystems.
Context. There is currently limited understanding of deep sea energetics. Understanding its functions is crucial because of accelerating climate changes and limited regulatory policies for the Earth's deep oceans. Global warming is causing phytoplankton death in the benthic zone, which reduces the amount of particulate organic carbon available to deep sea ocean organisms. Metabolic theory of ecology. The metabolic theory of ecology states that the metabolic rate of organisms governs most observed patterns in ecology. It describes the relationship between body size, temperature, and metabolic rate using an extension of Kleber's law, where B equals B naught multiplied by M raised to the 3/4. B is whole organism metabolic rate in watts or other units of power. M is organism mass in kilograms, and B naught is a mass-independent normalization constant in watts per kilogram. Smaller bodies have high mass-specific metabolic rates than larger bodies. Organisms in higher temperatures have higher metabolic rates. As a consequence of metabolic rate, small and warm-bodied organisms tend to be R-selected, as we talked about in class. Conversely, larger and cooler-bodied animals tend to be K-selected. The metabolical theory of ecology was used as a framework to understand and link energetics across multiple scales of biological organization in the deep sea. The map shows areas that were studied in the experiment. The yellow and orange circles represent deep sea organisms.
Data were obtained that described both body size and temperature scaling relationships for 1. Mass-specific metabolic rate in watts per grams, represented in graphs A and B. 2. Inverse lifespan in 1/days, represented in graphs C and D. And 3. Mass-specific growth rate in units of watts/grams, represented in graphs E and F. Data from Figure 1. Overall, steep slopes show high variation as you go along the x-axis or as the independent variable is manipulated. A constant slope, on the other hand, shows little variation. Data from Figure 1. Overall, steep slopes show high variation as you go along the x-axis or as the independent variable is manipulated. On the other hand, a constant slope shows little variation. For the top halves, which are graphs A, C, and E, body size is changed while temperature remains constant at 15 degrees Celsius. For the bottom half, which are graphs B, D, and F, temperature is changed while body size remains constant at 1 gram. Figure 2. The following are regression plots of body size, carbon flux, and temperature scaling of abundance and biomass in benthic deep ocean organisms. Increased body size caused a slight decrease in biomass and a dramatic decrease in abundance. Increased flux caused increase in both abundance and biomass. Increase in temperature caused decrease in biomass but had barely any effect on abundance.
Results and conclusions. NS means not significant and NA means not applicable. As the table summarizes, when mass and temperature are accounted for, deep and shallow sea organisms have nearly the same metabolic rates. Organisms that are smaller and at warmer temperature have higher turnover rates, longer lifespan, and higher growth rate and metabolisms. The opposite is true for larger and colder organisms. As the table highlights, on the individual level, body size and temperature affect processes greatly. On the community level, POC and depth have the greatest effect.
Results and conclusions. Carbon flux is the best predictor of biomass, abundance, and species diversity. Higher flux leads to greater biomass and higher biodiversity, whereas temperature and body size affect metabolic rate, growth rate, and lifespan. Overall, deep oceans are consistent with the predictions of the metabolic theory of ecology. Thermal energy, that is temperature, and body size are most important at the level of individual organism. However, chemical energy, that is particulate organic carbon, is more important for the higher levels of organization such as the community. Thus, deep oceans are not buffered against climatic change. Climatic change will greatly impact ecosystem functioning through impacts on food and temperature.
Thank you for listening.